Speaker dropped out last minute. Both of our backup speakers not here. So Molly, who gave us talk to us a minute ago, got one of her team members to come straight from the office. So with no slides, please welcome Thomas.
Thank you. Well, very excited to be here, everyone. My name is Thomas Bacas. Like I was mentioned, I work with Molly. I'm the assistant team lead of our data and surveys analytics group for Bloomberg Law. So I'm going to speak generally about actually my previous role before joining Bloomberg Law, where I was a data scientist with McGuire Woods LLP. Our office is in DC. I like to joke that it made my commute especially bad because it's right next to the White House. So pretty much any news that came out would add 10, 15 minutes to my commute in. But I gave a previous talk a few months ago at the Impt convention, which is really unfortunate. The title of that talk was "What is a Data Scientist and How You Use Them at Your Firm?" And I'm working under the assumption that many of you guys know the answer to that first question. So an important aspect of that event was really talking about leveraging data science in an industry that otherwise wouldn't be especially technical. So in that case, it was legal. Legal's always been a slow adopter of tech. Generally, there's apprehension to engaging new technologies in legal. And myself and the other panelists were talking about how we found great success engaging non-technical people with data science tools. So a few of the techniques that we used in that process was, one, we wanted to always work as strategic advisors, and as opposed to working and using the sort of data science mindset to address problems where everything's very technical, mathematics, statistics based, we tried to deconstruct problems with the context of a non-technical user in mind. So one of the great tools that we used for that was visualization. And that's sort of the great middle ground when you're trying to bridge the gap between technical results and sort of easily digestible results. So I mentioned the general apprehension with legal. When we came in, so the group that I helped co-found was called McGuire Woods Excel. And essentially what we were providing at that time was data science consulting with our litigation teams and our in-house enterprise team. So we worked in two different segments. So my specialization was working directly with our litigators in courtrooms, trying to find ways that we could use data to improve the outcomes of our attorney work. So that manifested in a lot of different ways. Primarily, we tried to use data to set a ground objective truth. So some of the cases that we worked on were large defense cases of insider trading or using healthcare data, defending doctors. And as opposed to making general claims without having a solid statistical basis, we leveraged our expertise using big data resources. So this could be like trade data, this could be population data or healthcare data to set that objective ground truth. That was one of the great ways that we were able to find that we weren't replacing the work that our attorneys were doing, because otherwise we'd be out of the job because they wouldn't want us involved in their practice, but more so working in that strategic mindset of providing insight and informing decisions that were already being made. So along the way, we built a series of tools, and this is an R conference. I generally use Python, but we did use R as well. So ready your tomatoes if that's the topic. But we built visualization tools into some of the integrations that we had in mind. So risk is a big aspect of the legal proceedings, and calculating risk is an important part of the work that we do. So when we were building risk calculators for industry groups, we tried to build in simplified visualization at every step of the way. So you could monitor how changes to any given risk calculation would impact the results as you were doing it. So the sensitivity analysis was being performed by the attorneys as they were using the tool. I really wish, this is going to be another out for short notice, that I had some slides to show you, because it would illustrate that much better, but use your imaginations that there's a very cool like web app that exists on the screen here. But yeah, so besides that, we wanted to also turn our focus to the business unit of the law firm because I don't know what Molly necessarily talked about, but our familiarity with law firms is that they're trending more toward running more efficiently as a business. And for all the data scientists in here, it's a great opportunity for you to look out as opposed to working just solely in tech fields, trying to engage data science as a business practice as well, where using business intelligence and the insights that you can gather to really inform the practice of your business or law firm in this case. So one of the questions that we gotten for any of the practicing data scientists here, you probably get something at where you work where it's like, we have problem X. So in our case, it was, we have associates turning over at XY rate. And our OGC, our Office of General Counsel, was asking the question of like, why does that happen? So I came up with this extensive quantitative solution, calculate turnover, and they sort of turned their nose up at that immediately. But one of the other data scientists on the team built a network diagram, which basically had our associates connected to our partners, and the edge nodes were the matters that they were involved in. And what we found in that visualization was that all of the edge cases of our associates ended up turning over. And the sort of qualitative inference that we got from that was that the associates that aren't involved in as many matters with more partners turn over at a much higher rate than those that don't. And using that information, the OGC was able to inform decisions moving forward of like pulling not only similar associates onto new matters, but also partners into underutilized associates. And all of that was created. Again, I'm going to keep defaulting to Python tools. We used Power BI and Django, but all of that could have been done with R and R Shiny. So it's one of those great sort of intuitive business case results that was really, really fun to work on. Yeah. So outside of that, one thing that I wish I had known joining what I'll call a sort of underutilized industry was the difficulty of adoption. And this is something that comes up quite a bit if you are working in a business that otherwise doesn't use data at their core. Now, we're finding more and more that businesses, regardless of their focus on data, are collecting it. And you really need to become the advocate and the expert in driving the adoption wherever you work. When we founded MWXL at McGuire Woods, we started to engage in teams that weren't actually working with us already. We just had access to their data. And we're trying to build solutions to problems that we knew existed in them even before we got asked. So really, we were trying to build a minimal viable product for them and provide that offer alongside the business they already created. And I think that especially in the legal industry, the maturity of technology continues to happen. Data scientists especially need to be working as the focus to drive adoption and continue to be advocates for engaging technology wherever you work. So, yeah. What's my time? Am I good? Okay. Well, I can keep talking. Unfortunately, again, I'm gonna turn to my notes, and I looked at these on the car ride over, and I was like, data science. What is a data scientist makes up about 85% of this. So so I'm going to point to a couple quotes that are really relevant to what I had mentioned before, which is that data analysis with lawyers piece. So this is a quote from David Burnett in his article entitled "The Importance of Data and Data Analysis in Litigation in Law 360." And in that he says, data analysis allows lawyers to bridge the gap from individual to collective proof. Lawyers can use investment market data, sales records, public health records, demographic data, and the like to generate compelling claims and evidence about incredibly broad subjects. In short, big data allows for big litigation. So sort of what I mentioned before, trying to visualize that in practice is if you want to make, I'm going to point to an example that we had pulled up with one of our litigation teams. So we had an employee lawsuit defense case, and the company that we were representing is basically making the claim like there's no way that this event could occur on random chance twice in this time frame. And do we have any lawyers in here, by the way, before I make disparaging remarks on lawyers? No? Okay, excellent. So lawyers aren't especially good at statistics, and generally they don't go into the practice of law to learn math. And I'm sort of looking over at Molly to see if there's going to be any we're losing business? Okay. Okay, good. Excellent. Yeah. So we really wanted to try to prove out this conditional probability case, which this is more of a statistics thing than it is an R thing. So I'm diverging, so forgive me. But we were trying to calculate this probability of occurring. So we had this one event that occurred at XYZ time frame that was especially odd, which theoretically in a vacuum could have occurred by random chance. But the fact that it occurred 2 and 3 times after that at the same rate, which was the case of, I think it was an injury, seemed a bit fishy. And essentially what it came down to with the litigators on this case, we ended up getting dismissed, was that there was a unnatural precedent for these occurrences to happen within a reasonable time frame. And essentially how we presented that was for one case to occur, it's 1 in a million chance. For this case to occur twice, it's 1 in 10 million. And for one in this case to occur 3 times in a row in this time frame, it's 1 in like a billion or something. And this is another one of those cases where they probably could have gotten their way around that without understanding, but working as the data expert and the statistics expert on the team, we were able to really drive that as an efficient story and narrative that we were building. And then also along the way, we were working on a sort of brother versus brother lawsuit over shares of the family company. One was trying to buy out the other. The one being bought out was saying that his shares were worth 5, 10x what he had initially valued. And we didn't really have a plan. Well, the litigation team didn't really have a plan on how they wanted to manage this sort of collection of ownership. So we built this really extensive pipeline that was built partially in R. So we, good job everyone here. Partially in Python, sort of built that into our AWS network. We were able to build out this really extensive, and again, these are very hard to visualize. So imagination hats on, dashboard and visualization tool set that allowed in our court proceedings, our client to be able to review ownership details of hundreds and hundreds of family-owned properties that were related to business, but also we were able to go back to the auditors that had been involved in this case that had valued all of these properties 5 to 10x what had initially been audited. And we were able to show, again, going toward that data at the core of ground centralized truth, that what the opinion of the auditor had made was not necessarily reflective in the data. And so in our ability to visualize that and build out that tool set, we were able to sell that narrative with much stronger efficacy. So yes, that's one more. And how am I doing on time? Good. Got 6 minutes. I kind of wish I could do questions. Can I answer one question or no? Yes. And sure. Yeah. Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. So the question was talking about wins with adoption, trying to sort of illustrate what it would look like because everybody runs into challenges of adoption for non-technical people. So the big thing that I would focus on always is trying to build trust. And that starts with the really easy, low-hanging fruit work that you do. So I am guilty of this also. My data science brain is always looking to build a really complex solution to problems that could really easily be solved with something simple. And you really have to stop yourself on that conclusion, because what you'll find is as you try to build these fun, complex solutions, people will turn their nose up at that because they don't understand it. But if you build like a simple dashboard or a visualization and get your foot in the door, that's a really great path to adoption, and using that as your trust building process. And once you start to have that trust at whatever organization that you're at, it's way easier for you to engage with teams or individuals that otherwise are not familiar with your process. But the data process can be scary to people that don't understand it. So my focus always is try to build trust at the start. Do easy things, do the not fun stuff, do the things that are not complex, and use that as a building block toward building more fun projects. Again, really wish I had my slide deck, but at my previous talk, I had this value complexity matrix, which is basically like value, complexity, X, Y. And we have those broken out into steps, and it's basically descriptive and I got to look at my notes, but it's basically descriptive, and at the very top, we have our prescriptive and our predictive analytics. So we start with the simple stuff, which is low value and low complexity. We use that to progress to our higher complexity and higher value work. So yeah, I hope that was helpful. Well, it's a pleasure to be here for everyone, and thanks for the time.